Let's have a quick look at current temperatures, the capital cities for you before we take you to the news. Brisbane, 22 degrees as we go to air right now. 16 currently in Sydney, also in Canberra, 16 degrees. 17 for you in Melbourne. 16 as we go to air in Hobart, 22 degrees right now in Adelaide. 18 in Perth, 34 degrees in Darwin. 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 2:30 in South Australia, 2 o'clock in Queensland, 1:30 in the Northern Territory. It is midday in the West. It's news time.
Helen Zaremus with ABC News. The opposition claims Labor is preparing the public for a cut to defence spending after detailing cost blowouts and delays to major military procurements. A new analysis of defence spending's found 28 projects were a combined 97 years behind schedule, with an extra $6.5 billion in overruns found on 18 projects. The opposition's defence spokesman Andrew Hastie says the government's beginning the process of slashing military spending.
And so while Labor over the past week has created great uncertainty about their commitment to Stage 3 tax cuts, what we see today is Richard Marles and Pat Conroy setting the conditions for Stage 1 of defence cuts.
The Weather Bureau's latest severe weather outlook indicates widespread flooding for eastern and northern Australia is likely again this summer. There's also an increased risk of prolonged heat waves and of an above-average number of tropical cyclones and tropical lows. Weather forecaster Jonathan Howe has warned people should not delay their preparations.
Communities are urged to prepare now, as there is an increased chance that the first tropical cyclone in the Australian region is likely to be earlier in the season. This reflects the impact of current climate influences, including La Nina and a negative Indian Ocean dipole.
Canberra police have described as horrific the scene of a single vehicle crash that killed 2 teenage girls yesterday. A 16-year-old boy has been refused bail on 2 counts of culpable driving causing death after the accident on the Monero Highway at Hume. Acting Police Inspector Travis Mills says support's being provided to witnesses and responders.
The collision scene was horrific and it was graphic. Support services are routinely wrapped around members of the community that come to police with information. ACT Policing, like other emergency service agencies here in the ACT, have phenomenal welfare officers.
The Victorian Greens have launched a plan to legalise cannabis in Victoria within the next 2 years. Under the proposal, it would be legal for Victorians aged 18 and over to buy cannabis, which would be taxed at a similar rate to alcohol. Costings undertaken by the Parliamentary Budget Office show the plan could generate up to $1.2 billion in revenue over 10 years. The Victorian Greens health spokesman, Dr Tim Reid, says decriminalising marijuana possession would save Victoria millions in police, court and prison expenses every year.
With over 1 in 3 Victorians having used or currently using cannabis, we're not winning the prohibition battle. Instead, we're just throwing billions of good money after bad.
Another COVID booster is now on offer for Australians aged 18 and over. Moderna's Omicron-specific booster contains spike protein blueprints for the original COVID strain and the Omicron BA1 variant. The chair of the Immunisation Coalition, Dr Rod Pearce, says anyone 30 and older is eligible for a 4th vaccine dose.
Over 80% of the people between 30 and 50 who haven't had their 4th dose, so there's a lot of people who would benefit from having something that's closer to the variants that we're seeing.
North Korea says its recent missile tests were tactical nuclear drills. State media says all 7 were personally supervised by the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, as the BBC's Jean McKenzie reports.
In announcements on state media this morning, the North leaves no doubt. The missiles it's been testing are designed to carry nuclear weapons, specifically smaller tactical nuclear warheads that could be used on the battlefield against South Korea. It claims to have successfully simulated hitting its military bases, ports and airports. It says this is a warning to South Korea and the United States, who've been holding military drills of their own as they practice how how to respond to a North Korean attack. Intelligence suggests the North is now preparing to test a nuclear weapon for the first time in 5 years.
To sport in the AFL, Melbourne's premiership-winning ruckman Luke Jackson's been traded to Fremantle. The Dockers have given up pick 13 at the national draft, as well as future first and second round pick. In return, they'll get Jackson and picks 44 and 67. As part of the deal, Demons forward Toby Bedford will move to the GWS Giants. In another deal, Gold Coast forward Isaac Rankin has joined the Adelaide Crows. And English golfer Jodie Ewart-Shadoff has had her first win on the US LPGA Tour, the 34-year-old finishing one shot ahead of Japan's Yuka Saso. ABC News.
You're listening to ABC News Radio.
Hello, Scott Wales with you for ABC News Radio. Great to have your company from wherever you're listening in. Coming up in the next half hour, the Defence Minister vows to overhaul spending after new analysis found 18 projects were over budget, worth a combined $6.5 billion. Also ahead,
generals, commanders, they can lose the battle, they can set the conditions for success, but they can't win it. It's won at the soldier level. Ukrainians get this, the Russians clearly don't.
NATO's former top commander gives his assessment of the war in Ukraine as Russia reels from an attack on the only bridge into occupied Crimea. That story is still to come. Decades-long delays and cost blowouts are leaving Australia's Defence Force vulnerable. A review has revealed dozens of projects are behind schedule and billions of dollars over budget. Experts warn Australia's defence strategy needs a revolutionary change to guard against growing threats. Matt Bamford has this report.
Billions over budget and almost 100 years behind schedule. The Albanese government says the projects that will make up Australia's next generation of military hardware are in serious trouble. It was only elected in May, so for now, Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy can point the finger.
It's got so bad over the last 9.5 years because we had a